Hey everyone, this is Bird at Pinpoint, and today we're going to talk about team retros. Retros aren't anything new. As software developer, we've been doing this for over a decade in some form of agile methodology, whether you're doing sprints or Kanban or Scrumban or anything in between. It's a way for teams to reflect what went well, what needs improvement, and ultimately how do I feel about the work that I did. Now, these tend to end up in a Confluence page or on a Google Doc or a sticky note. And what we found in terms of our experience is that while you're doing these ceremonies on a regular basis, you actually going back and looking at that data and seeing how you're improving or if you're improving uh, tends to get overlooked. You complete the ceremony and very rarely do you go back through and look at that. Now, what we wanted to do is actually help teams get better at building software here at Pinpoint. And we can do that by using machine learning, but also creating a integrated and aggregated way of gathering data that you can then look at over periods of time. So we've developed a way to create a collaborative workspace where your teams can work together in real time to get the data they need for the retrospective, but then also track that from sprint to sprint. Now, here we have a open retro. I've just started this. We've got a timer running. And on our first screen, just kind of get you through the process, we have our work rating. And this is really about team sentiment. How did you feel about the work that you accomplished? Did you have everything that you needed to do the job successfully? And were you overworked? Was it a really difficult sprint where you felt jam-packed, or did you have some wiggle room there? These are questions that you can address anonymously, so that you don't have to worry about somebody coming back to you and saying, "Hey, why didn't you like how you did this sprint?" It's also a way for us to aggregate the information we already collect as part of our integrated capabilities with Pinpoint. We can bring in all of your completed issues. We can also highlight issues that may be unplanned or that came in after the sprint started. Pull requests. What was actually accomplished this iteration in code? Who accomplished what, and how much work did we get done? And then finally, what action items we need to track as we go through that discussionary period. So as we advance through the retro board, this is where the team gets an opportunity to, again, anonymously place into the workspace answers to those questions of what went well and maybe what didn't go so well this sprint. You'll notice that some of these answers are blurred out, and that's because as people are typing in their initial answers, we'll only show you what you're typing in. This allows people to continue not to to add information into the retro board without being influenced by what other people are writing. This keeps things very open and focused. Now, as you advance to the grouping stage, you'll notice that what was blurred previously is now an open part of the sprint. And we also start to group this information. Now, I can manually group these just by dragging and dropping, but Pinpoint tries to leverage a little bit of smarts here, where we'll use natural language processing to try and pre-group items that we think may be related, just to help speed things along a little bit. Now, once you get into the grouping phase and everything's completed, we want to allow the team members to vote. And so we can, again, walk through that process. Everybody gets 5 votes. You can see where you've voted. Again, this is going to be anonymous. The icon here just simply shows where you've placed your votes. If I wanted to unclick, I can always change my vote to another location until I get that 5 level votes. You also can leverage that weight to vote multiple times on a particular item if you think it has a lot of value. Now, as we come in here and we want to go into the team discussion, this is where we'll take that information, what's voted highest, we'll bring it to the front, and we'll help you walk through that topic of discussion, and we can see what people feel about a particular grouping of topics and develop our action items from that. So if we're talking about UI UX and we want to bring this over as an action item, simply click that and it's going to bring that over, and we know we want to talk about that or work on that over the next couple of iterations. Now, as you get into a completed retro, you have a nice aggregated list of all the work you accomplished, the topics that you thought were the most important, what code you were able to complete or not complete during the course of this work, what's been unplanned as part of that effort as well, and then ultimately what action items you're drawing out of that discussion so you can take to the next iteration as part of your focus. Additionally, the work ratings or that team sentiment is going to be recorded, so you have that as a record over time as well. Now, as we learn about your teams and we get better understanding of how you're doing with the sprints, that's where we may see more of a sprint health score coming into play. As you can see in this example, the sprint health is giving us a rating of average. We also look at below average or above average, and we're going to bring in the rating factors that we think had the most impact in that sprint. Now, that may be the fact that you had unfinished items as part of the sprint. Maybe that you had a number of items that were added onto the sprint after it started. Or maybe your team had a lot of capacity and that would be a positive factor. Being able to look at this and then see how you're doing comparatively to your average is a great way to provide positive feedback and reinforcement to the team on how they're achieving the overall results of their development cycles.